no doubt. All right, welcome to the March 10th, 2025 AnonCreds working group meeting. We're going to be talking about the webinar coming up, updates to GitHub, and other stuff. Calls being recorded. I'll post the recording here. Reminder, this is a Linux Foundation LFD decentralized trust meeting. So the Linux Foundation antitrust policy is in effect, as is the code of conduct. All right, the big thing to talk about today is the webinar. Let's see where we're at now. 204 attendees have signed up for it, so who knows how many we'll have, but 204 looks, it's a pretty decent audience for this, so that's good. Right now, I was hoping to get, hopefully Patrick's able to come back and join us relatively soon because he's got a piece of this and I want to see how he's doing with it. But this is sort of the outline that I have planned, Mike. I don't know what pieces you wanted to jump into. Probably the big one would be the abstraction layer. Or sorry, no, this was sorry, the libraries and structures.
Right. Yeah, I can do the library and structure.
So thought was overall sort of intro to anonymous credentials just for any brand newbies, given we've got 200 people there, a bit of the history of the project, then the features of the 2.0 and what 2.0 adds, or version 2 adds. Then I was hoping you're going to have something here, Patrick, so we could talk about that in a bit. Oracle ZKP abstraction layer, give the folks at Oracle a chance to talk about what they've done and how they've implemented an abstraction layer on top. This is the technical piece. In this one, I'd like to get this into documentation, so I've got this down to talk about, but what libraries, how they're structured, and then what audits have been done. So that's, you want to cover things like the alignment with the IETF, the names of the libraries and where they are, what's in Agora, what's in AnonCreds v2 itself, and as I mentioned, the audits and things like that.
Yep.
And then possibilities, what can be done, and then calls for action.
Say possibilities, like are you meaning more features, or are you saying this is what you could build with it?
This is what you can build with it, what you can build with it today, what we might want to go, a roadmap for it, what could be done, and other actions.
I wanted to ask you, now that Victor is kind of done, do we want to kind of continue along the revocation thing? I'd like to have a demo of that soon, not necessarily before this meeting, but I do want to have one.
Okay. Agreed. I've had it on my list to move his stuff, to run through it and run it over. So we'll use this as an excuse to get that done. And revocation is one of the things I wanted to talk about. So I probably want to edit and get into here about including what and how we talk about revocation. But let's, Patrick, are you able to talk now?
Yeah.
Have you had a chance to look at the library and thought about what you could do for a demo?
Yeah, so I had a look, and for disclaimer, I have very, very limited Rust knowledge. So I had a bit of a look, but it's also a learning experience about Rust for me.
Yeah.
So I basically been looking at the flow and some of the tests in there. So it it calls the different functions and goes through the process. What I think would be good for a demo is to kind of create like fixtures of every single output that's there. So like once the schema is done, try to do like, I need to look if that's possible, but to output the schema like in a JSON format.
Yeah.
And have a sort of wizard, like a static wizard that goes through the step, like the setup, and then credential issuance and kind of show the information in a digestible way and explain a
Yeah,
little bit what is doable. So basically, you go through the test files, but in a sort of showcasey kind
yeah,
of way. Um, I don't think at the moment I could, well, eventually, yeah, but I think it's a bit short to do like a full-on demo
okay,
application that does like a
yeah.
live issuance flow. But
I can
surely
help you with
eventually that would
that.
be,
I
yeah,
can help you with that. Yeah, like since I wrote all the Rust code, so I can help you like understand things better.
that'd be good. Because what would be good is maybe to have like a demo directory and
That would
you
be
have a
awesome.
script that runs um and outputs because right
Rust
now the yeah
for in Rust, like you want an examples directory or something, or are you more like just for Akapi? Because it's the Akapi
um
part I'm not familiar with.
yeah, so the other thing was like I know the old AnonCreds Rust has like a Python wrapper kind of thing, so if that would be available, like I would be
Yeah,
able to
and
do a lot
that's
more.
yeah.
uh, I was looking at this thing called so Pio 3 and Maturin.
No, nope, nope,
No.
no, no.
Okay.
So, I mean, when we did stuff with Victor, I mean, he did the best he could, but I basically almost had to write it for him, the whole
Yeah.
thing.
Okay.
So, if yeah, so depending on what you want. So, see, this is the part I don't quite know. It probably doesn't matter what the Python looks like because you're just going to use it anyway, as long as you know what to call, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Um, I can probably just take what Victor has and then just, update it or make it more robust. Um, I just need somewhere to put it. Probably we'll just put it in the Agoralosaurus Rust repo. Is that where it was currently at?
Um, so for AnonCreds, I think that we just put the Python library in the same. Is that where it is?
No, I'm talking about the Python wrapper.
Yeah, I
Just
know. The
oh,
Python wrapper, I think, was kept in the same
The
AnonCreds,
yeah,
right?
the old one, there was just at the root there was a subdirectory called wrappers, and then there's Python and
yep,
JavaScript. I
yep.
mean, it could be a separate project or something, or it could be like this. If you look in the demo file directory, right, there's like just the first one test, like the this just goes to it, and I can look at that and kind of make something based on that. So that's um, for me, it's just I'm a lot more knowledgeable with Python, so it gives me a lot more flexibility when it comes to showcase stuff, right? With Rust, there's a bit of a learning curve. Um,
Um, Patrick,
yeah,
why don't you
yeah,
show, let me stop sharing and you show your little demo as what would be nice to be able to get to. I don't know if we can do it in time.
yeah, sure. Like,
That I
you
assume
want to
you
show the
can.
video or just me to?
Yeah, just show the yeah, why don't you just show the video?
Right, hold
And we don't
on.
have to go through the whole thing, but just show the so Mike, for background, um
Hmm.
we were demoing using WebVH instead of Indy as the root for did WebVH as the root for AnonCreds.
Hmm.
And then Patrick just put this demo together. Um, so he's got so this is based on Akapi, so it does include the Akapi. But what I was talking about was this sort of user interface, being able to show um, all the objects.
Okay. Yeah, and I guess we need to do the revocation object now.
Does
Yeah, so
it
this
work or it doesn't? Because I saw there was some revocation test files in there. So what's
My guess is off of what Victor was doing, probably not. Like he
like
really struggled trying to just get the base things to work from Rust to Python.
yeah, so
oh, so
the
there is some
revocation
work.
works, Patrick.
Or
To be clear, the revocation works. What doesn't work is the Python wrapper.
oh, so
Yeah.
there is work for Python wrapper started.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay, okay, interesting.
That's what we had an intern try to do, and they got Basically, I ended up doing most of it.
And that's
So
Victor, right? Is
Yeah.
that
yeah, yeah. I
okay?
mean,
Okay.
I learned a lot for sure. But it just wasn't his wheelhouse, and so I probably should have just done it, and we could have had him do something else. But whatever.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, so
So it'd be,
this
I mean,
is
it'd be awesome to get to this. I don't think we can get here.
yeah, I mean, so this is like the real thing, right? It's like a full exchange with ICAPI, with DIDCOM and all the thing. I think that's a bit, like not
Yeah, that's
quite there
not,
yet.
but if,
Um, yeah, what I would like to do is something a bit more like, something like this. So this is like each resource. So I have this, but for like the schema, the issuer public, which is I guess the equivalent of a cred def, which is like you present it, in a way that's digestible, and then I have different thing that kind of opens a Moodle, then you can see like the full-fledged object, like the with the some of the code and stuff, to explain a little bit what it is. I think from seeing the library, the biggest thing we want to explain is the schemas, right? The different type of
yeah,
claims you can do and what they can
yeah,
enable,
yeah,
and then move on to what's possible with presentation, right?
yeah.
Um, I have a few things that's not 100% clear to me. So I've looked a little bit too at the W3C BBS crypto suite, so like mandatory pointers and some of these things. And I'm curious how this relates to like the blindable claims and some of these things that you
So
define in your schema.
all of those features and more are in it, are in
Yeah.
this library. So the BBS IETF draft has BBS signatures, has blinded secrets. Um,
So what's the blinded things? Like what's the
that's
blind claims?
that's the linked secret in AnonCreds 1. That's a
Okay.
blinded secret.
Think of it
Oh,
as a
okay.
holder. I don't want the issuer to know what the value is that they're signing because it's private. Could be a private key, could be a linked secret. I mean, could be really anything. However, the issuer does need to agree that, okay, I don't know what it is, but you need to at least prove to me a couple things about it, like that you at least know what it is, and two, it's not something nefarious,
So
right?
the issuer would define a schema, and the schema I said this is a field that you need to prove me something about it, and I'll issue it without. Okay, is there limitation on what can that field be? Can it be an arbitrary strings, or it can be
Yep. Could be a number of things, but for our simple case, the linked secret is kind of well defined.
right?
So
It's like
that's the
some
only
kind
one
of
we're
public
doing
key.
right now. But yeah, it could be a public key, could be a private key. I mean, it could be a number of things, right?
Okay, and what it is just going to depend on what the hell is being issued and the.
Yep.
Okay, okay. Is there a concept of mandatory pointers, like mandatory claims that need to be revealed and
No,
cannot be? No?
no,
Okay,
and
okay.
that's part of the go forward is what should be mandatory. Like there should be a link secret in there.
No, I'm saying like mandatory in that in every single presentation, the holder needs to reveal that. Like he cannot,
Oh, you're
No,
talking
like,
oh,
about
I see.
presentation.
I see. So an attribute is required disclosure. Mike, that's over to you.
Well, yeah, you're talking about like presentation type stuff. That's going to
yeah,
depend on the verifier and what they need proven.
right. So they can at the base reveal everything, ask what they
Well,
want.
yeah.
So
So I
the
mean,
way it worked with the W3C is like the issuer issues the base proof. And then when the holder wants to present something, he derives another proof. So he never shows the base
same,
proof, but the base
Yeah.
proof enables him to
same
uh,
idea.
do something. But in the base proof, some attributes are flagged as you must always reveal these. Like you cannot
I
not
don't like
reveal them.
that. Yeah, I don't like
Okay.
that
Okay.
because anything that must always be shown can be used for tracking.
Not if
Yeah.
it's a link secret.
Yeah. Well, also because the in the W3C stuff, it includes more than just the claims, right? So for example, like the issuer, right? Like you might always need to disclose the issuer, like who
Yes, you always have to show where, well, like for example, you always have to tell who the issuer was because they have to
yeah,
know how to verify the dang thing.
yeah,
So
Yeah.
yeah.
that, for example, doesn't necessarily leak it. well, anything shown is going to be leaked, right? Anything
Yeah.
that's revealed to me is leaked. Is it a bad leak? Maybe not necessarily. So like the issuer always shown, yeah, that's normal. If you're disclosing a leak secret, yes, that's correlation. Well, you're trying
Yeah,
to
definitely. Yeah, yeah,
correlate.
yeah, yeah. Okay.
Trying to minimize correlation. And so, like, for example, if you're always revealing the issuance date, that's correlatable.
Yeah.
Yeah, you depends on this. Maybe they need it, maybe they don't. Depends on the
Me, I
thing,
don't know
right?
why you always need to disclose the issuance date. I've
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
that's one of my biggest beefs with the W3C is, oh, you always have to reveal it. Why?
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, the newer model they don't, right? The version 2, it's not
Oh,
mandatory anymore.
good.
That's yeah, that's a quite a big change. Um,
I
interesting.
think the
Um,
bare minimum, the only thing that you would must reveal is where you got it. Who's the issuer?
yeah, yeah, and that's kind of implicit in the AnonCreds V2, right? Thanks to the cred def. So I saw in the demo there's like the issuer and then the issuer public. That's the
Oh,
cred def. That's like
oh,
the
or yeah. So the issue, well, so in the code, issuer I was using to keep track of this is all the issuer and all of their private keys. And then there's the issuer's public version, which is anything you'd publish that somewhere, which is yeah, like all the
yeah.
public keys, the cred def, the schema, all that
Okay.
stuff. Yep.
Why is so okay? Am I correct to assume that the order of the claim is the only thing that allows you to place a value in them? Like, because the claims is like an array, and there's no uh, declarative way to access a specific claim. It's always just you need to define them in the right array. If you go into test and in the flows,
Mhm.
if you scroll down a little bit, so you go up a little bit. So you define your claims here in a specific way, so the claim schemas, and then at line 85, you need to declare them. It's only based on the order they are in the array that you place the values. Is that
They have to match what the schema says, right? So it says the very first one, just for the sake of this demo, was the
yeah,
revocation, right? So you go look
yeah,
at the claim schema, it says this is a revocation claim.
yeah,
Its label is identifier. Is it printer friendly? Like that was just for the demo. Print friendly just means, like, is there a friendly version of it, like an address which has a better name versus a hash or a key or something,
yeah.
that's
It's a
our
hint that is this something you want to display to user
Yep. Yeah,
mostly? Yeah,
exactly. That's all. And
yeah.
then you can see number two, it says, what am I going to do with the data that I get? I'm going to hash it. And you can see it must be at least a value of 3 or a
Yeah.
length of 3, because I'm basically saying the length has to be at least 3 characters, but you can have up to 255 characters. Um, the third claim is the address. I'm going to hash it. There's no minimum length, which means it's not
Hmm.
necessarily required in terms of length. Like there's no minimum length, but the max length is 255 characters. And then the
But
last one is their age, which is obviously the minimum value is 0 because you can't have a negative value
yes,
because when you specify a number, it does support negative numbers.
yeah.
So
You
obviously you
need to
can't have
put
negative.
restrictions. Yeah.
So that's why you see min 0, and then the max is, and I encoded it as the number of days since 1900. Um, there's a much easier way that Steven suggested, which I like better, which is just do year, month, day
That's
Yeah,
a
that's
number. Yeah.
as a raw number.
yeah,
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
and that works too. So, but just so you can understand the demo better. So yeah, the claims are in that order.
But then
So
when you go later, like if yeah, like line 85 stuff, like there's no reference to the label, right? So they
oh,
just list them. So you need to maintain that order.
correct.
And it seems it's the same thing like in the presentation. Is that
Well,
correct?
that's
Like,
just how this demo does it. Like you as a programmer can organize it however you want. You could say, "Oh,
yeah,
we're going to
okay,
organize it by the labels that were in the other
okay,
thing." And then it's just going to be a list. We could make it a map or whatever it was in Python. Yeah, it's a map or a dict.
dictionary, yeah, yeah,
Yep, same thing. I mean,
Okay.
we could organize it like that if that's easier. It really doesn't matter.
Okay. I feel personally like a map is just more declarative, right? Like this year bit.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. And why is so there's probably a reason, but why is like revocation a claim? Like it seems because you can only have one and it's like a very specific thing and it's kind
No,
of
you
the
can have
odd
it
one
any
out.
number of them. You can have any number of them.
Really?
So
When
you
I
could,
tried to put two revocation, it told me I could only put one.
oh, maybe I put that in there, but ideally you can actually put as many as you want.
Okay.
The revocation is mostly just it's a claim because it has to be signed by the issuer.
Yeah.
The holder can't put it in there. The holder is just going to put, they're just going to get the claims that the issuer gives them.
Okay.
Think of it's like with any like government ID, there's always a unique number assigned to it.
Yeah.
What I think of as the revocation ID. It's the unique number for that ID. So, because when they revoke
Oh yeah,
something,
well that's why they put the cred
really what they
ID
use
here as the revocation claim. Okay. Yeah, so it's like a reference. Okay, I
credential
get it.
identifier.
Yeah.
Hmm. How to
Okay,
identify
that's
that I use
interesting.
to use specifically.
Okay,
That's
that's
all.
good. That's really good to know. It's an interesting bit of information here. Has there been, so are all these, do they all have a JSON? Like, can you export this schema to a JSON? Yeah.
Mhm.
Has there been some exercise? Because when I look at these restrictions, right, the min and the max, like obviously you think JSON schema. Has there been some exploration around like mapping these schema claims to a JSON schema, literally, and use some of
Yeah.
these?
Didn't Victor print them out once? If
Yeah,
not,
so the first project he did was to print out the stuff so that we could sort of, I mean, that is the issue, Patrick, I think, is sort of the possibilities part, which is we have all the basics in here, all the
Hmm.
capabilities in here. How do we align this with, how do we enable this to be used consistently with
Yeah, I mean, like, I
other
think
things?
if you can find a pattern that when you use this, these schema claims are published as a JSON schema by the issuer, if there's just a way
Yeah,
somehow, that would be like
yeah.
wonderful for like
That's that
interoperability.
that's the
yeah.
that's kind of the next step.
Because you could
Um,
use them like even W3C, you can use them just as a credential schema and everybody knows
yeah,
this, right?
yeah.
I can do that. I just don't know where you want me to put them because this is all Rust code. If you want me to put it in another README somewhere,
Via
I don't know
just
where is the best way to.
experimental repo, I'm not sure.
The biggest thing, Patrick, if you could just come up with, as I say, what you talked about with, some sort of way to just, even if they're just static objects and your demo
Yeah.
runs through them all,
Well,
but
I
be
really
able to show
like
them on the screen and print them out.
yeah, because I know Greg, he works at the BBS stuff, and he
Yeah,
comes up with these fixtures which are really so test vectors, right? So
yeah,
in this section, and it's really like every single step of operations. I don't know if you can open this link. Um, they just post like if we can have something like this somewhere, so they just post like for every single operation, they post the output,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So when it gets into the RDF, it's like stuff like so it's stuff that you wouldn't see normally, but that happens in the code at some point.
yeah,
And this just is pretty good. So it's like I was thinking like something equivalent of what's needed for the AnonCreds RS, like
yeah,
every time a new object is like instantiated in Rust, we just have the JSON equivalent of that so that then JSON, like anything, can kind of read it and present it and understand. Um,
yeah.
I don't know how, I'm assuming some of these objects are going to be pretty big with the crypto stuff. So, yeah.
Not that big. That's the point.
Yeah. Okay.
Hopefully not, anyway.
Now in the test, there are tests with the BBS thing, but I think we also want to showcase the PS signatures that is that
Um,
I don't think that's necessary for.
no,
okay.
it's
Okay.
fine. I mean, the point we'll make there is that it's pluggable. And
Okay.
not only that, there's the possibility that PS has made progress on a post-quantum version. And so in theory, um, a post-quantum one could be done today if we really needed to.
Hmm.
And it would be pluggable, and the outside code would continue to work the same. The calling code would be the same. The abstraction layer would be the same.
Okay.
What what and to take that as well, the Oracle abstraction layer, they're going to talk about, they've got a layer as well that is an abstraction layer that goes above a couple of versions of BBS. And so that's what they've done.
Okay.
So I mean, we don't have a lot of time. It would be great to get a Python wrapper, but I don't know that, I don't know how big it would be, how much effort it would be. But if you talk about what you said, which is if you could put a little browser across so that we can
Yeah.
look at the different examples and show that, and people, show here's a flow going through, and then here are the objects that came up along the way. That would be awesome.
Okay.
Does that sound reasonable to you, Patrick?
Yeah, I think like you do this, you start with the issuance and then try to show as many things as you can do with it, like
Yeah.
the ZKP and the different. So I think one thing you said, Stephen, is like the predicate are a lot more flexible in this. You can do more than
Yeah.
just larger than or equal.
Yeah. So the
So
ones,
yeah, because that's what's interesting, right? Is what
yeah,
can the
yeah.
holder
One of the
do with
ones
this
that's really
credential?
crucial is, and we're finding this at BC Gov, is exactly what we want, which is the pseudonymous identifiers. This ability to have one unique identifier in the issued, and then every verifier gets a consistent interface value, a consistent identifier, but a different one across every verifier.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that you can't correlate, but you also don't have to have all sorts of overhead of, oh, we've got to have an identifier for this guy, an identifier for this guy, so that they won't be able to correlate. Um,
and what about the so there's like some W3C stuff in the project. Who made
um,
that?
so nothing there yet. We talk about it, but one of the ideas is to make it so that the objects, the issued credential is a W3C format. I mean, that's possible. We just haven't
Yeah,
got there. That's the possibility stuff. It could be a W3C. It could be an SD, a JOT. Could be all sorts of
yeah,
things.
yeah.
We
Like just
do
as
have to.
the vehicle, but
The
yeah,
schema obviously has to be um, richer. Is by definition richer. It's the schema that allows all of these features,
yeah,
and so
yeah.
that's what's needed there.
And are these so these schema restriction? They're just restricted by code, right? They're not
Yeah.
bound to any cryptographic limitations, like somehow,
No,
or
no. The schema.
they're just schemas. They're just like re like restrictions on the like the minimum length, minimum.
Those are,
Okay.
but um, the
No, that's
encoding the encoding types are what tell you how you can use this attribute.
Okay.
This attribute can be used as it's a numeric and can be used in predicate proofs. This one is a revocation thing. This one is a a unique identifier that you don't ever want to share directly. You only want to share it as a pseudonymous identifier.
yeah.
Okay.
So the schema tells you the encoding that's going to be used. The encoding tells you how it can be used by the verifier.
Yeah. Those validators that I put in there are mostly just like, look, the issuer is only going to accept a number in this range, for example.
Yeah. So it's to
Graphically, it's not that doesn't really enforce anything because cryptographically it's going to be converted to something they can operate on
Yeah.
the
Yeah, it
HUD.
just helps a bit in the validation and ensures that, if they want to display a certain field that they're going to have consistent values and it's not going to bust the
Yeah,
screen
and
or
I mean, I did it in Rust, but like you were saying earlier, we could just do JSON schema and that accomplishes the same thing,
Yeah.
right?
yeah, that'd be interesting. Like if you can okay, yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
okay. Mike, I wanted to talk to you about these things, so we can come back as we go, but um, the documentation needs to be upgraded. I'll update it. I'll be doing that, Patrick, if you but you and Mike can feed me things, but the documentation, the README and so on. So you'll see PRs from me this week on that.
Okay.
As I say, what I would like to put into the README is the library structure and the security auditing. So if you could share with me and sort of plan, um, just a couple of minutes to talk about at the webinar what that is, but I'll put it into documentation.
Okay.
We talked earlier about the alignment with IETF. I think we need that done for sure.
Yeah.
And then any documentation, again, just feed it to me. I can do, whatever, all the overhead and clean it up and all that stuff. And then the last thing was the Oracle guy said the verifiable encryption doesn't work. I don't think it decrypts.
Uh,
So could you take a look at that?
there's two different ones, yeah. So he wants a decryptable version.
Yes.
So that's just adding a new feature.
Yeah. So Patrick, a verifiable encryption credential or attribute. So the issuer uses a public key to encrypt something and then puts it in. Every verifier gets a unique value, so it's non-correlatable. They don't get the issued item, they get a derived item. But that derived item given to somebody with the private key can be decrypted. So
Okay.
that can be used for things like auditing fields. So if somebody does something wrong and um, you need to find out who it was, a warrant could be used to get it to say the police that have the decryption key. So for
Hmm.
normal users, nobody ever finds it out. The verifier doesn't find out who the unique identifier is, but in situations that can be used to find out who the person was. So
Right.
that's one pretty powerful one. It can work in conjunction with the unique identifier one, the synonymous identifier. Um,
Yeah. One thing I notice is so when the issuer.sign credential function is called, you get a credential. And then for that credential, the all of the claims, the values are a list of short integers. So what's going on with this?
that's the encoding.
Yeah. How do you
So
how do you decode this?
so I don't know if how much you know. Anonymous credential, or sorry, AnonCreds V1. Everything that is signed is just an integer.
That's the
An
same with
integer is
AnonCreds too. It's just I allow other stuff so that you don't have to worry about that as much.
Okay.
so in so in AnonCreds one, either it's an integer and it's just signed as is, or it's not and it's stringified and signed. The hash is signed. So
Right.
so either way, all of the encoded values are integers. So this is the same here. It's just that the
Okay.
encoded values, there's different things you can do with those encoded values.
I didn't know that. So that's
Yeah,
interesting. So every time you see you have a value like a first name, it's only a string, but really you need to hash it and then compare that hash
exactly.
to
Under
verify
the
it.
hood, that's what happens.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what
Right.
happens in AnonCreds 1.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and so that's what AnonCreds 2 brings is it gives you all these encodings that are that allow for more capable well, two things.
Right. So
Allow for more
that's why
capable
you
and
need
pluggable.
that's why you need to send a preview when you issue a credential, because otherwise the holder is not going to know the textual value in its credential. So he takes the values.
No, no,
Oh,
because
that
the
no.
in the
Okay.
so in the issued credential, you get the values as well. You get the raw and the encoded.
Okay.
It's just
Okay.
that the encoded values, you don't ever share the credential, right? You only share a derived one.
Yep.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
and the way you do selective disclosure is you share or don't share the raw values.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, this makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
Well,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
raw
Yeah.
values don't leak anything, right? So
yeah,
AnonCreds V2 just abstracted that away from you because I got tired of everybody. Is this a hash or not? I'm like, you just say it's the in the claim schema type.
Yeah.
In the claim
Okay. That's
schema,
why it says
yeah, I'm going
hashed
to hash
or
this,
yeah.
but how it's hashed, you don't necessarily care. You just know
Yeah.
it's going to be done securely.
Right.
So that's all you have to care about is, oh, yeah, it's going to be hashed, which basically that just means the only thing I can use it for is equal, not equal. That's it. Or membership proof. Is it in or not? Anything that's equal, not equal, you can do it with, but that's the only predicate proofs you can do with a hashed value. Numbers, for example, you could do or sort like logic, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Not equal, less than or equal, greater than or equal, that kind of stuff. Verifiable encryption can be used with anything.
yeah,
Verifiable encryption, like think of it as like your credit card. The issuer
Hmm.
is going to give you your credit card number, the expiration date, and CCV and all that stuff. So when you go to, let's say you go to a
yeah,
retailer,
A
instead of
store.
giving
Yeah.
them the full-blown credit card number, you verifiably encrypt it, and they can go, all right, I can prove that MasterCard can decrypt this. And so they get their token. You're basically giving them an encrypted credit card that they know is a valid credit
Ah,
card.
okay. And they don't have the way to decrypt it. MasterCard does. They know they can decrypt it, so they just forward the
They just
information
forward
for
it.
payment.
They just forward it as proof of consent to charge the card $50 or whatever it is, right? So then they decrypt it. And then MasterCard goes, "Oh yeah, yeah, we know what this is. We decrypt it, we charge it, and send them back a receipt that says, "Yep, the charge was valid. There you go."
Okay, that's a
And
good
off.
yeah, that's a good example.
yeah,
Okay.
I mean, most people think, oh, it's for revocation, which it can be used for revocation if you want. Like if you want to be able to de-anonymize someone
yeah,
later for legal reasons, like
yeah.
I'm
That's a
providing
yeah,
my credential identifier, which is also the revocation value.
yeah,
But
Yeah.
the only ones that ever want to decrypt it are the issuer or law enforcement. So
Well, there were discussion for these revocation about like revocation predicate, right, that the holder would give.
yep,
uh,
yep.
which yeah. Um, so the revocation here, is there the concept? So it's used a la SOR, is that?
Allosaur is the cryptographic method, yes.
And does it still work based on a list that's published, like a bit list that's published?
Even
And
shorter than that. Even shorter than that. The only thing published is a think of it as like a fixed length digest that
okay,
represents the list. That's it.
and does it evolve? Like
Oh,
how
it
is
could,
things?
yeah. But the unique thing that we did with Allosaur is we only have to update it when we actually revoke something, not when we
Yeah,
add. And
yeah,
unlike
okay, yeah.
NotCreds V1, where you had to pre-allocate everything in advance, you don't with Allosaur.
Okay, yeah, interesting. And so in this revocation claim, so when you think of something like bitstrict status list, right, there can be different purpose, like can be a suspension, a revocation, etc. Could that be the case here? Like instead of
that's
calling
Um,
it a
that
revocation claim, it'd be a
that is
status
why
claim,
that
and
is
you
why you
can,
can have multiple membership
yeah,
proofs. I mean, that's pretty much all a revocation proof is. It's just membership. Are you in this list or not? If you're in the list for revocation, that means you're not revoked. You're issued.
yeah,
So
yeah,
you can change it to whatever you want. So it's not as straightforward. But see, the thing is with a bit list, it's just 0 or 1. What does 0, 1 mean? You have to
Right.
define what it means somewhere else. It's the
Yeah.
same. And the only
Yeah.
thing they learn is the status. They don't know which one you are in the list. So the thing I don't
No.
like
Yeah.
about the bit status is not only do I learn what your status is, I learn which one you are. So if you present again, I know it's the same
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
That's
That's
not
yeah.
true.
I think that's yeah. Yeah. They give you the specific index and you can sort of track it. Like,
Yep, it's
once you
called.
reveal the status once, it's revealed. That's why they wanted to do this predicate, this sort of predicate presentation. But this is easier said than done.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yep.
exactly.
Okay.
Interesting.
So we've all got stuff to do, I think, is what we're saying. So
And this
Mike,
is next Wednesday, not this Wednesday, but the one after, right?
yeah,
The presentation.
Tuesday,
Next Tuesday. Okay.
2 weeks, 2 weeks from tomorrow.
2 weeks from tomorrow. So on the
2 weeks from
24th, on the
tomorrow, the
25th.
25th. It's the
Oh, okay.
25th.
Okay. Okay. I thought it was next week.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, no.
Hurry,
Um,
panic.
so Mike, the two things I want from you is give me a summary, even if it's just an email or whatever, of the libraries, the library structure, the components. Where's the BBS? Where's the PS? Where's the what Agora libraries are involved, and then for all of them, what security audits have been done.
Okay.
Patrick, yeah, if you could do this wizard idea, I think would be great. Go through the steps and just show in that similar interface that you did. Here are the various objects that were involved in that predefined example. I'll work on documentation. I'm already, a lot of the way through having a presentation and preparation for that. So I'll have that ready. Yeah, I think that's about it. I think we should, Mike, if you're okay with it, let's do another meeting next Monday so that we can sync up and see where we are.
If you need
And
another one this week, let me know. Like
yeah,
maybe.
I'll just let you know when it is. And Patrick, I'll invite you, obviously.
Yeah.
I've been in touch with Mark, I mean, from Oracle, so we'll do that and just catch up on where we are next week.
So just a question, like you mentioned all these objects can be transformed to JSON. Is there like a native way from the Rust code base to do this, like a dot to JSON or?
Um, so Rust has this fancy thing called just serialization. So you just pick your method that you want to serialize to. So you can say the short term is surday. So you say surday
Surday?
underscore JSON to string. And then it will take anything, any object, and it'll print it out. And you can also say to string pretty, which inserts all the white space. Because otherwise it's just a compacted thing that you're gonna have to go into JSON lit and say, format this for me. So you can
Okay.
say
Yeah,
JSON
so
pretty
this
to
here.
POML to
Perfect.
YAML. I mean, you could do CBOR, it could, bear, any
Okay.
binary format that you can think of or any text format. So there's a lot of them.
Okay, cool. That's all I needed. So it's a built-in thing in
Pretty
Rust.
built in,
Yeah.
yep.
Okay.
I could add some code examples for that if that's helpful.
Well, example is always useful. But that's a good start. So yeah, I'll go through the flow testing and then to everything. I'll put a JSON somewhere and just have that statically presented in a wizard with some kind of explanation of what's going on.
Yep, sounds good. Okay, we got our marching order.
Just asking a quick question of Andrew about what's the effort to do a Python library for V2?
It shouldn't be that hard. You talking about the same methods I have for Rust?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's not hard.
I
Like I
wouldn't
said,
think so.
the hardest part is just getting the serialization from the Python data
Yeah,
structure to the Rust one. And by far one of the easiest methods is just serialize it to JSON, pass it across the boundary, and then Rust just deserializes it, does its thing, serializes it back to JSON and returns it. And then Python can unpack it that way. That's usually the easiest way to do it.
Okay.
There's more efficient ways to do it, but if you're talking ease and speed,
I'm just talking ease.
There's billions of credentials per second that you need to optimize that yet.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, this was good. Oh, there's something in chat. There's another one. Oh, okay. You're just
No, I just put the link to
serial
the
deserializer. Yeah. I'm always seeing Serde as needing to be updated, so I recognize that library. It's actively developed.
The maintainer's updated every week.
Exactly.
That's good. That's
yeah,
good thing.
Exactly. Okay, good. All right, thanks, guys.
Hey, thanks. See ya.
See ya.
Bye.